The wind howled like a dying beast across the frozen plains of Kirith 7. Snow fell in sheets so thick that the twin moons were nothing more than pale ghosts behind the storm. And somewhere in that endless white hell, Kaelin lay dying. She had stopped shivering an hour ago. That was bad. She knew enough about hypothermia to understand what it meant when the cold stopped hurting. Her fingers had turned a strange shade of blue, and her thoughts moved like creatures trapped in ice, slow, fragmented, fading. They left me. The convoy had moved on without her. A malfunction in her thermal suit, a stumble into a crevasse, and by the time she had crawled out, the lights of the transport vehicles were distant stars swallowed by the blizzard. She had screamed until her throat bled. No one came back. Humans were disposable out here. Everyone knew that. Kaelin closed her eyes. The snow was almost warm now, like a blanket being pulled over her body. She thought of Earth, of summers she barely remembered, of her mother's voice singing songs she could no longer name. Strange, the things the mind reaches for when death comes knocking. She didn't hear them approach. Vash was the first to spot her that he was young, barely past his third molt, but his senses were sharper than any of the older hunters in the pack. His thermal vision cut through the storm like a blade, and the heat signature he detected was faint, flickering, almost extinguished. "Something's there," he growled, his voice still high with youth. The other cubs gathered around him. There were 6 of them in total, all children of the Vrethkai, apex predators of a dozen worlds. Their species had been feared across the galaxy for millennia. Teeth like obsidian daggers, claws that could tear through starship hulls, eyes that burned like molten gold in the darkness. "It's dying," one of the cubs observed. "We should leave it." But Vash didn't move. Something pulled at him, a strange sensation in his chest that he didn't understand. Curiosity? Pity? His people didn't have words for such things. "Wait here," he commanded as he approached the shape in the snow. As he drew closer, the truth revealed itself. It was a human. A female, small and fragile, her pale skin turning the color of deep ice. Her breathing was shallow, each exhale a ghost that vanished into the storm. Vash had heard stories about humans. His elders called them weak, soft creatures with no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons. They were prey animals that had somehow stumbled into the stars. The galaxy tolerated them the way one tolerates insects, with indifference, occasionally with disgust. But as Vash looked down at the dying creature, he felt something unexpected, but she's still fighting. Her fingers were clawed into the snow, frozen in the act of crawling. Even in the grip of death, she had been trying to move forward. There was no surrender in her body, only desperate, stubborn resistance. Vash had seen warriors of 100 species die. He had seen them accept their fate, go limp, let the darkness take them. But this human, this fragile, clawless thing, had refused to stop. "She's still alive," Vash said quietly. "Barely," another cub replied. "What does it matter? Humans aren't worth saving." Vash turned to face them, and something in his golden eyes silenced the others. "My father once told me," he said slowly, "that the measure of a hunter is not in the prey they kill, but in the mercy they choose to show." He looked back at Kaelin's trembling form. She fought until her body failed her. That deserves respect. The cubs exchanged uncertain glances. This was not what they had been taught. Predators did not save prey. The strong did not kneel for the weak. But Vash was already moving. Kaelin woke to warmth. Real warmth. Not the false comfort of hypothermia, but the crackling heat of actual fire. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, she thought she was dreaming. She was surrounded by monsters. 6 young Vrethkai sat in a circle around her, their massive bodies forming a wall against the wind. At the center of the circle, a fire burned, built from some kind of crystalline fuel that glowed with an amber light. The heat washed over Kaelin like a blessing, seeping into her frozen bones. One of the creatures noticed her stirring. It was smaller than the others, with eyes that gleamed like liquid gold. "You're awake," Vash said. His voice was deep, rumbling, but there was no threat in it. "Good. We were not sure you would survive." Kaelin's throat was raw, but she forced the words out. "You saved me." Vash tilted his massive head, as if the question confused him. "You were dying." "I'm human," Kaelin whispered. "You're kind, you hunt us." "We hunt many things," Vash replied. "But you were not running. You were not prey." He paused, and something shifted in his ancient eyes, something that looked almost like admiration. You were a warrior refusing to fall. That is different. Kaelin didn't know what to say. Tears, frozen almost instantly, slid down her cheeks. Around her, the predator cubs shifted closer, their bodies blocking more of the wind. One of them, a female with silver-tipped fur, pushed a container of warm liquid toward Kaelin. "Drink," she said simply. "You need strength." Kaelin's hands shook as she lifted the container to her lips. The liquid was bitter but warm, and it spread through her chest like sunlight. She looked at Vash, at the circle of young predators who had chosen mercy over instinct, and she understood something profound. Strength was not about claws or fangs or the power to destroy. That it was about the choice to protect. "Thank you," Kaelin whispered. Vash bowed his great head, a gesture of respect that his species reserved only for the worthy. "Rest now, human," he said. "When the storm passes, we will take you somewhere safe." And in the frozen wastes of Kirith 7, surrounded by the galaxy's most feared predators, Kaelin finally allowed herself to close her eyes. For the first time in years, she was not alone.